Let's get one thing clear: you are already brainwashed. Every thought you think, every belief you hold, and every reaction you have is the result of a mental script someone or something put in your head. Now, here's the problem: most people are brainwashed for mediocrity. They've been taught to think small, play safe, and settle, not because they're weak, but because they've been programmed that way since childhood. If you want success, real, lasting, life-shifting success, you've got to take back the pen and rewrite the script. You don't wait to feel successful to act successful. That's backwards. You act successful so your mind begins to believe that's who you are. That's how your subconscious gets reprogrammed, through consistent alignment between action and identity. You can't expect a millionaire output with broke, fearful, or toxic input. Turn off the news, cut the negative conversations, replace gossip with growth. Feed your mind with books, speeches, mentors, and moments that reinforce the belief I was made for more. Words are not just communication, they are creation. Every time you say, "I'm broke," your brain believes it and starts looking for evidence. Every time you say, "I always figure things out," your mind gets busy making that true. If you want a new life, start speaking it daily, boldly, repeatedly. Your brain doesn't know the difference between what's vividly imagined and what's real. Use that. See yourself winning. Hear the applause. Feel the moment. This is not daydreaming. It's training your brain to believe that success is not only possible, but inevitable. Get around people who are living what you want to live. Success is contagious. Proximity is power. Stop spending time where you're tolerated and start spending time where you're inspired, challenged, and called higher. The truth is, you are programmable, and that's not a weakness. It's a gift. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your programming. So if you want a new life, you don't need more hustle. You need a new mental operating system. And guess what? You're the coder. Start writing. Most people hear the word brainwashing and immediately recoil. It sounds dark, manipulative, maybe even dangerous. But here's the truth that most people never stop to realize: you are already brainwashed every single day in ways both subtle and obvious. And it's not just you. Everyone around you is being programmed, influenced, and conditioned by the environment, the media, their families, their cultures, and their past experiences. Brainwashing isn't something that only happens in cults or in movies. It's happening right now, every day, through what you see, what you hear, and what you repeat, whether you realize it or not. The problem is not brainwashing. The problem is who's doing the brainwashing, and whether the programming serves your future or sabotages it. Because if you're not actively choosing what goes into your mind, then someone else is choosing it for you. Your beliefs, your self-worth, your money mindset, your view of success, failure, relationships, health. It's all been influenced by what you've been exposed to over and over again. Think about it. You didn't wake up one day and randomly believe that money is hard to make, or that you're not good enough, or that success is only for other people. You were conditioned to believe that. You saw it in your household. You heard it from people you trusted. You absorbed it from the media. Over time, those repeated messages became your inner dialogue. And now you live by them as if they're facts, when in reality, they're just programmed patterns. Your mind is like a computer. It runs on whatever software it's given. If you grew up with lack, fear, criticism, and limitation being spoken over you, that's the software you're running. And here's the thing. Your brain is always listening. Every time you say something like, "I'm not smart," "I can't do this," "I'm not lucky like others," you're reinforcing a loop that makes you repeat behaviors, attract similar experiences, and stay stuck in the same cycles. But what if you could change the code? What if instead of letting life program you by default, you programmed your own mind on purpose? What if you could brainwash yourself intentionally, consciously, for success, for greatness, for abundance? It's absolutely possible. In fact, the most successful people in the world do it. They've trained themselves to see opportunity where others see obstacles. They've trained their minds to expect results instead of rejection. They've rewired themselves to believe in themselves, even when the evidence wasn't there yet. And that belief, repeated long enough, became their reality. This isn't magic, it's science. The brain learns through repetition and emotional intensity. The more often you hear something, especially from someone you trust, or in a moment of vulnerability, the more likely you are to believe it. And once your subconscious mind accepts something as true, it starts filtering reality to match it. That's why someone who believes they're unlucky finds reasons every day to reinforce that belief. It's also why someone who believes they are destined for greatness will find a way, even when the odds are against them. So if you've been brainwashed to think small, it's time to reverse the process. Not by fighting the programming, but by replacing it. You don't have to destroy the old thoughts. You just have to drown them out with better ones, with stronger ones, with thoughts that align with the version of you that you're becoming. You start with awareness. You begin to pay attention to the language you use, the media you consume, the conversations you entertain. You notice how often you're reinforcing beliefs that don't serve you. Then you start flipping the script. Instead of saying, I'm always broke, you start saying, I'm learning how to multiply money. Instead of, I can't do this, you begin saying, I always figure things out. You say it even before you fully believe it, because your subconscious doesn't need it to be true now. It just needs repetition. Over time, with consistency, it becomes your new truth. This is what brainwashing yourself for success looks like. It's not manipulation, it's mastery. You're not being fake. You're being intentional. You're no longer living by default, but by design. And once you take control of the programming, you take control of your potential. Repetition is one of the most powerful forces in the universe, especially when it comes to transforming your mindset and reprogramming your beliefs. The things you repeat to yourself over and over again become the foundation of how you see the world, how you see yourself, and what you expect from life. Whether it's words you speak, thoughts you think, or actions you take, repetition is the tool your brain uses to decide what's real, what's important, and what should be automatic. This is how habits are formed. Not just behavioral habits, but mental habits, how you respond to challenges, how you interpret failure, how you feel about your worth, your abilities, and your potential. None of this is fixed. All of it is programmed. And all programming runs on the same fuel, repetition. The truth is your current identity is a product of repeated inputs. You didn't become who you are because of one moment, one decision, or one experience. It happened because of the things you were exposed to consistently. Maybe you were told repeatedly that you were smart and capable. Or maybe you were told repeatedly that you'd never amount to anything. Either way, repetition built the belief, and belief built the behavior. Declarations and consistent exposure to empowering content are not just feel-good techniques, they are brain training tools. Every time you speak a positive belief out loud, even if you don't fully believe it yet, you're chiseling away at the old programming and laying down new neural pathways. Neuroscience calls this neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to change itself based on experience and repetition. Think about a path in the woods. If you walk the same trail every day, the ground becomes worn, clear, and easy to follow. But if you stop walking that trail and start walking a new one, the old one begins to fade, and the new one becomes stronger. That's how the brain works. The more you think a thought, speak a belief, or perform an action, the stronger that mental trail becomes. Eventually, it becomes your default setting. If you've been telling yourself for years that you're not good enough, that success isn't for people like you, that you always mess things up, those thoughts have become well-worn mental trails. But just like you built those with repetition, you can build new ones the same way. It starts by identifying the thoughts that don't serve you and replacing them with intentional, empowering beliefs. And then repeating those beliefs daily without fail until your subconscious accepts them as truth. But let's be real, this isn't a one-time event. You don't reprogram a lifetime of limitation with one motivational quote or one good day. You need daily mental conditioning. Just like you wouldn't go to the gym once and expect to be in shape for life, you can't expect one positive thought to undo years of mental junk. Repetition is the gym of the mind. And the more often you train, the stronger you get. That's why it's so important to create rituals and routines that reinforce who you want to become. Whether it's writing down your goals every morning, saying affirmations in the mirror, listening to empowering content during your commute, or visualizing your future every night before bed, these are not just habits. They are deliberate tools to reshape your mind. And every time you do them, You are casting a vote for your future self. People often underestimate this process because it feels too simple. They think change requires some dramatic breakthrough or perfect moment. But lasting transformation rarely comes in flashes of inspiration. It comes through quiet, consistent, intentional repetition, over and over again, until one day you look up and realize you don't think the same anymore. You don't talk the same. You don't even attract the same situations. You've changed from the inside out, and it all started with repetition. Your subconscious doesn't care whether what you're feeding it is true or false, helpful or harmful. It only cares about what it hears most often. That's why you can't afford to casually repeat negativity, even as a joke, because your brain is always listening, and what it hears most, it believes. So the question isn't whether repetition works, it's what you're repeating. Because repetition will either be the engine of your transformation or the trap that keeps you stuck. The power is in your hands. Use it wisely. Your environment is not just where you live. It's not just your physical space. It's every sound you hear, every conversation you participate in, every emotion that gets repeated in your daily atmosphere. Your environment is the mental and emotional climate you live in, and it is silently, consistently shaping your identity. Most people underestimate the influence of their surroundings. They believe success is all about willpower or talent. But the truth is, your environment will almost always overpower your willpower. It's easy to have high standards in a low standard environment for a little while, but eventually the environment wins. Why? Because what you're surrounded by consistently becomes what you start to normalize. If you spend every day with people who complain, gossip, blame others, and talk about how hard life is, guess what starts to happen? You start to adopt that language. You start to absorb that energy. Even if you don't agree with it at first, over time it seeps into your belief system. You start tolerating negativity, expecting less, and living small, not because you chose to, but because that's the emotional atmosphere you've adapted to. That's why change isn't just about changing your mindset, it's also about changing your environment. Because when you shift your environment, you automatically start shifting your expectations, your conversations, and your internal standards. You begin to see what's possible simply by being around people and places that are already living on that level. Let's say you want to become financially successful, but everyone around you believes that rich people are greedy or that money is evil. You're going to find yourself constantly conflicted, even if you read books or watch motivational videos. Why? Because your environment is reinforcing a belief system that clashes with where you're trying to go. So, unless you upgrade your environment, your inner growth will always be at war with your outer reality. This doesn't mean you have to abandon your family or cut off everyone you know, but it does mean you must become intentional about placing yourself in spaces that reflect your desired future, not just your current situation. That could mean joining new circles, finding mentors, participating in masterminds, attending conferences, or even just spending more time listening to voices that stretch you instead of shrink you. Even your digital environment matters. Who are you following online? What kind of content fills your feed? What kind of conversations do you allow in your messages? Your mind is consuming information constantly, whether you're aware of it or not. If all you're feeding it is drama, fear, entertainment, and negativity, how can you expect it to produce clarity, confidence, and creativity? Your brain is constantly seeking reference points to define what is normal. If you're surrounded by people who see excellence as optional, risk as dangerous, or dreams as unrealistic, then your subconscious will start viewing those beliefs as reality. That becomes your identity. Someone who settles, who avoids discomfort, who plays it safe. But the moment you shift your environment, those internal definitions begin to change. You start thinking bigger because you're hearing people speak from a place of vision. You start acting bolder because you see people making moves with confidence. You begin to believe in yourself, not because someone gave you permission, but because your environment stopped reinforcing the limits that used to define you. This is why successful people protect their environment so fiercely. It's not just about motivation, it's about preservation. They know that even one toxic influence can plant a seed of doubt, and doubt left unchecked will grow into hesitation, then stagnation, then regret. So they guard their space, their time, and their energy, not out of arrogance, but out of alignment. Because here's the truth: you don't rise to your goals. You rise to the level of your environment. You rise to the level of what's normal around you. So if you want to elevate your life, elevate your surroundings. Get around people who live where you want to be. Make your environment a mirror of your future, not a memory of your past. Because when you do that, something powerful happens. You stop adapting to survival mode and you start adapting to success mode. And before long, it's no longer something you're chasing. It's who you are. Your words are not just sounds, they are signals. They carry power. They program your mind, shape your beliefs, and build the reality you live in one sentence at a time. Most people go through life speaking unconsciously, using words that weaken them, limit them, and keep them trapped in the same cycles they're trying to escape. But what they don't realize is that language isn't passive, it's creative. Your words don't just describe your life, they direct it. The way you speak about yourself, your future, your challenges, and your potential is forming the foundation of your identity. I'm not good enough, that's just the way I am, is not just commentary, it's instruction. Your subconscious mind is always listening. It doesn't analyze sarcasm. It doesn't know you're just venting. It takes everything you say as truth and begins working to align your behavior and your perception with your dominant language. I'm always late. You're not just observing a habit, you're reinforcing it. When you say, I suck at business, you're not just joking. You're programming failure into your identity. The more often you say something, the more deeply it takes root. Eventually, it becomes a belief. And once it becomes a belief, it starts running your life on autopilot. That's why rewiring your language is essential if you want to rewire your mind for success, because your life will never rise above the level of your self-talk. If your words are full of doubt, fear, and self-sabotage, no amount of effort will fully override that. Your thoughts may want change, your goals may demand growth, but your words will keep pulling you back to the version of you that you've been rehearsing for years. So what does it mean to rewire your language? It means you become intentional with your speech. You start using your words as tools, not just for communication, but for creation. You speak with vision, with purpose, with belief. Even when your circumstances don't match, even when your emotions don't agree. Why? Because words spoken in faith begin the process of transformation before the evidence ever shows up. It starts with awareness. Start listening to yourself throughout the day. Catch the moments when you say things like, I always mess things up, or that never works for me, or I'm not like those successful people. Replace them. Redirect them. Shift your language even before you feel the shift inside. Instead of, I can't afford that, say, how can I afford that? Instead of, I'm not good at this, say, I'm learning and improving every day. These might feel like small changes, but small hinges swing big doors. There's a reason people repeat affirmations. There's a reason elite athletes and top performers speak powerful phrases to themselves before big moments. It's not hype, it's neuroscience. What you say becomes what you see. What you declare becomes what you eventually do. Repetition of powerful, intentional language reconditions your brain to expect success, to act with confidence, and to overcome resistance. And this isn't just about being positive. This is about being purposeful. Positivity without strategy is just noise. But language that's aligned with your goals, your vision, and your purpose, that's a weapon. That's a tool. That's a key to unlocking levels of yourself you've never seen before. The more you speak in alignment with your future, the faster your life begins to shift. Not just because the world changes, but because you change. You carry yourself differently. You show up with a different energy. You move like someone who expects to win. And that confidence becomes magnetic. Opportunities respond. People respond. Life responds. If you want to transform your life, start by transforming your language. Be ruthless about it. Eliminate words that reflect fear, lack, limitation, or helplessness. Replace them with language that empowers, expands, and elevates. Speak about your goals as if they're already happening. Speak about yourself as if you're already becoming, because the words you speak today are creating the world you'll live in tomorrow. And if you truly want to live on another level, you've got to speak like you already belong there. One of the biggest misconceptions people have about success is that you have to feel ready before you start acting like the person you want to become. But here's the truth that separates those who grow from those who stay stuck. You don't wait until you believe it to act on it. You act as if until it becomes real. You take action not because you're confident, but because confidence is built through action. You don't wait for full clarity to move, you move, and the clarity comes. Your brain works based on identity. Whatever identity you reinforce through behavior, your mind begins to accept as reality. So when you start acting like the person you want to be, thinking like them, speaking like them, showing up like them, your subconscious starts to adjust. It says, okay, this is who we are now, and begins filtering your choices, emotions, and habits through that lens. But none of that change happens unless you first step into it by choice. Acting isn't about pretending. It's not about faking success or lying to yourself. It's about embodying the traits, disciplines, and mindset of your future self right now before you see the results. It's a powerful psychological principle known as behavioral congruence. When your actions are aligned with your desired identity, your brain begins closing the gap between who you are and who you want to be. Let's say you want to be a successful entrepreneur, but right now you're broke, uncertain, and insecure. You might not have the bank account yet, but you can start acting like a person who makes smart decisions, invests in learning, shows up consistently, communicates with authority, and carries themselves with self-respect. You don't wait for the money to become that version. You act like that version until the money becomes a byproduct of your behavior. This is how transformation works, not from the outside in, but from the inside out. The world mirrors your level of self-perception. If you see yourself as average, hesitant, or small, the world will respond accordingly. But when you start walking, talking, and thinking like someone who belongs in the room, who deserves to win, who expects greatness, the world begins to respond in new ways. Opportunities appear. People will treat you differently. And most importantly, you treat yourself differently. This also applies to how you handle challenges. Successful people aren't fearless. They just act as if they are. They feel fear, but they take action anyway. They step into the arena, speak with conviction, make bold moves, not because they don't feel doubt, but because they've learned to act from vision, not emotion. Every time you push through discomfort, you're voting for the version of yourself that lives on the other side of it. You don't need to fake confidence. You grow confidence by doing the very things that scare you. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to know everything. You just have to act in alignment with where you're going. That's what act as if really means. Showing up today like the future version of you is already in the room. Start asking yourself, how does the successful version of me wake up? How do they talk? What do they prioritize? How do they treat their health, their time, their relationships, their finances? Then start living by those answers, even in small ways. You might not be able to change your entire life overnight, but you can absolutely change your behavior today. And that's how everything begins. Success doesn't arrive by accident. It arrives through consistency, belief, and identity alignment. The sooner you take ownership of the identity you want to live in, the sooner your life will begin to rise to meet it. Because nothing outside you can change until something inside you shifts first. So don't wait. Don't wait until you feel ready. Don't wait until the fear goes away. Don't wait for permission, applause, or a guarantee. Start now. Move now. Speak now. Act now. Act as if, not with arrogance, but with alignment, not with ego, but with expectation. Because the version of you that you're working toward isn't waiting somewhere far off in the distance. They're waiting on the other side of consistent action, powerful language, elevated standards, and bold behavior. And the faster you step into it, the faster it becomes your reality.